Brad Williams, Frugal Finance, caulking. It is a necessity, but a test of patience. I just finished painting the exterior of my house, and I took my time, but I caulked. I removed caulk. I added caulk. I removed caulk. There's a reason why you have to pay attention to caulking, and I'll explain briefly in this video some of the tips and some of the different types of caulking. And seemingly, when you're shopping for caulking, you're going to get lost. So just be patient, read, and continue reading the information as how it pertains to what you plan on doing and what the use of the caulk is all about. Caulking for air and moisture sealing. Caulking is used to seal small openings, typically less than a quarter-inch wide between fixed building parts. It helps reduce air leaks, improves energy efficiency, and protects against moisture. For parts that move, like windows or doors, weather stripping is a better choice. Before applying caulk in an existing home, check for places where air escapes. Also, consider your home's ventilation to keep indoor air quality in balance. Caulk doesn't just stop drafts, it also blocks moisture around plumbing, light fixtures, and other exposed areas inside and outside. Choosing the right caulk. Caulk comes in different forms: cartridges for caulking guns, pressurized containers, squeeze tubes, and rope caulk for small jobs. Estimate how much you need based on the job size, and almost double that, because you always underestimate, and the last thing you want to do is keep going back and forth to Home Depot or Lowe's to pick up another cartridge. A half cartridge covers one window or door. Now, again, that's sort of subjective. It depends on the door size or the window size. A standard foundation still might need 4 full cartridges. Caulk types vary by ingredients, cleanup method, flexibility, adhesion, shrinkage, and cost. And let me just forewarn you, don't buy the cheapest stuff out there. The reason being, you're going to find yourself buying a $3 tube of caulk that's for interior use. You're using an exterior, and in 2 years, you're going to pay someone and remove all that, and it's going to cost you a fortune. Spend the money up front. I'm speaking from experience here, because that's what I just went through. Because 15 or 20 years ago, I used cheap caulk. Well, yeah, it lasted, but subsequently it didn't do its job. I had to remove it all. I spent the money, used the proper stuff, and installed it correctly. So hopefully over the next 20 years, I'll have a pretty sealed up house, and it'll provide a great return on investment. There are many different types. You have your water-based type, cleanup with water. This is the way to go if you can. If you're using silicone-based, you're going to find yourself with very little workability, and the cleanup is disastrous. In other words, you get any type of silicone-based caulk on your skin or on your clothes, and it's not going away. You're going to have to do a little bit of work in terms of getting it off of your skin. But water-based, not only is it easier to apply, you keep damp rag or just a tiny sponge with you at all times when you're installing this stuff, and do cleanups. A lot of people will use their finger to smooth out their caulking. That's common. Some people will use a sponge and some people will use a rag. If you're using a sponge, make sure it's damp, not wet. Go over the area lightly. Otherwise, you're going to pull out all of the caulk. And if you do that, plan on doing a second coat, because there's going to be shrinkage. Even though the manufacturer says there's no shrinkage, there's going to be shrinkage. So just plan on a second coat. Otherwise, if it's in an area where no one will see it and appearance is not a big deal to you, then just apply it, make sure it's properly covered, and leave it as is. You have your solvent-based types that needs mineral spirits or other solvents to clean up. And here's just a quick overview of some of the different types. And this list is growing seemingly every year from manufacturers and the chemists coming up with some rather target-specific uses. You have your silicone. You're going to use this in your households. You're going to use it wherever there's water, for example, in your shower, in your bath, around metal fixtures, your cleanup, dry cloth, mineral spirits. It's very flexible, strong adhesion, stretches with movement. Silicone construction, use, wood, brick, stone, metal. Cleanup, dry cloth, mineral spirits. Notes, bonds to different materials, not paintable. And that's the other area is If you need to paint, make sure it is recommended for painting. Spray foam, polyurethane, large gaps, indoors or outdoors. Cleanup, solvent like lacquer thinner. Expands a lot, strong bond, must be painted outdoors. Water-based foam, windows and door frames, small gaps. Cleanup, water. Notes, limited expansion, eco-friendly, not for large gaps. Butyl rubber, use, windows, flashing, loose shingles, cleanup, mineral spirits. Notes, long-lasting, good adhesion, may need more than one coat. Latex, you're going to find, here it is, middle of 2025, and you're going to find a lot of silicone with latex combinations, and they work pretty darn good. Try to work with that particular type of caulk. It's just much easier for workability and cleanup. You're going to find a lot of these now are great for exterior. Latex, they're great for exterior. They're paintable. The cleanup is simple. Now, you can't use this in your showers and bathtubs, but for a lot of other uses, the latex, silicone are great for practically everything. Now, I did a lot of stucco crack repair, and it was latex based. They have a silicone based, Sikaflex. They have some great products, but again, depending on your use, if it's a deep crack, you can use multiple types of caulk. One can be the silicone based as the underlayment, in other words, the first coat, and then you can come back with some other, and they have some great stretchable caulk related products for stucco and even lumber that will stretch for exterior use. They're expensive, but they work great. And then you have your oil and resin based. Now these are not as popular these days, so we'll just move on from there. Applying caulk effectively. Applying caulk is simple, but take care for best results. Now I'm going to argue it's not that simple if you're going to do a great job. The reason being is how you prep. One, if you're removing caulk, here's the first rule. Just be extremely patient. It's going to take a lot of time. Don't rush it. Why? Because you're going to end up breaking things. And if you start breaking things, for example, around vinyl windows, if you have old caulk and you need to remove it, make sure you don't destroy the vinyl around the window. You're going to use a limited number of tools. I used a utility knife and just a lot of patience, and you have to just try to cut it out and slowly pull out the old caulk and then just patiently scrape away. And you're going to need to remove about 98% of it. It takes a lot of time, so just be patient. So that means to clean surfaces first. Remove old caulk, dirt, or loose paint. You need to be really, really cognizant of this. If you're leaving old caulk, dirt, or loose paint, you're self-defeating yourself. The reason being is the caulk just won't last. You might get a year or two. Now some of you who just don't care, well, somebody's going to have to clean up your work. Be professional and do a good job the first time around. Make sure everything is dry. Apply caulk to every joint around the window frame. Keep in mind, you also need to know your application. You can have a brand new tube of caulk, but you cut off a large opening at the end. You're going to squeeze out way too much caulk, and your cleanup is going to be just ridiculous. On the other hand, if you cut too small of an opening, you're not going to get a good enough coverage. Experiment. Take a little bit of time. Start off with a smaller opening cut at a 45-degree angle, and that's important. If you don't have a 45-degree angle, you're going to be applying caulk in a way that it won't seat in and do its job. You're trying to fill in a gap, and if you're not at a 45-degree angle, you may be covering the gap, but you're not filling the gap. And there's a difference there. So experiment if this is new to you. Run the bead in a single smooth line. That's very difficult to do. Why? Because you may have a long run. You might have just some areas that impede your movement. So do what you can. You try to keep it as smooth as possible. And don't be afraid to go back over and fill in any unfilled gaps. You have plenty of time. You have about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the temperature, to go back and clean up your mistakes. So be sure to press the caulk deep into the gap. Make sure it sticks to both sides. Release the trigger before lifting the gun. Use a putty knife to press in any excess. This won't work, all right? Use your finger Or use a sponge, a lightly damp sponge. If it shrinks or leaves a gap, reapply. Apply caulk in dry conditions above 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and low humidity helps prevent trapped moisture. Warm weather helps the material cure and form a solid bond with the surface. If you have any tips, if you have any helpful advice for DIYers doing a simple task like caulking, comment. If you'd like me to produce a video on how to caulk different things, interior or exterior, let me know. Brad Williams, Frugal Finance. Thanks for watching. Hope that helps. See you soon.